Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy and welcome to our impromptu 2020 live stream for New Year's Eve. We don't have a script. This was really last minute, hence the title. I think pretty much we were like planning content for next year, and then I just said to you, should we do something for New Year's Eve? I feel like we should do something for New Year's Eve, and here we are. So we're just throwing this together. We're going to be live for like the next probably like hour and 10 minutes. We're going to do the countdown. We're going to get into 2021 and probably stick around for like another 5 or 10 minutes. And we're just going to shoot the shit. We're just going to chat. We're going to talk about 2020, films we've watched, anything in between. And of course, anyone watching along, if you want to fire questions at us, we'll turn this into sort of like an unofficial Q&A as well. It's just going to be relaxed. We've got drinks. We're just going to chill and see 2021 in, I want to say in style, but in reality, we are in our homes, which is what we're forced to do at the moment. Obviously, tier 4 in the UK, but we're going to make the most of it, and we hope you have fun as well. So, yeah, I guess that's it for the intro. It feels weird doing an intro to this.
Yeah, I mean, normally, like the socials is this like offhand script where I'm going to tell you where to find us, and I'm going to do that again. But that's because we never used to do script stuff. It was just like, okay, we kind of do something like this, but now it's pretty much drilled in. So, as we said, this is impromptu. We had Tate on the Skype chat earlier. We're all catching up. We're going over stuff we want to do, and then afterwards we're kind of like, yeah, we should really do something today because film Twitter, if anyone's on social medias, you can use this to quickly say cinema_savvy and Facebook cinema savvy. There we go. That's how minor they are today. Everyone's doing like top 10 lists and stuff they've seen in the year they've had. And I just tweeted earlier, like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing a top 10 because I just don't really care anymore. Not anymore this year because there's been nothing out. It'd just be full of Oscar films from last year. And we kind of decided as a channel probably a month ago that we wouldn't do a best and worst films list of the year as we always do. We would have probably all had the same top 5, different orders, Borat, Tenet. We'll get into that stuff later. I'll just say, yeah, my film is Tenet. Bye-bye. See you later. Hope 2021's good. So it's going to be nice to talk some film stuff today, talking the future of film, which I guess can tease something else coming up. But beforehand, do comment along with us. We've already got a comment from Kyle, which we'll bring up. Thanks for the tweet earlier, Kyle, as well. I said this is impromptu, and the best way to find out when we're going to do these videos is on social media. But do comment along with this tonight. This is as informative as it wants to be. If you've got questions, if you want to do a Q&A, we don't have any prep for this. We're just going to literally chat. Kind of, it's that behind the scenes, isn't it? Most people will be flogging this for their like £10 a month Patreon stuff. Like you can hear us talk about what we do. Whereas people at home, like when we do our videos, we'll finish with a live or pre-recorded, and then me and Chris will sometimes be chatting for like 2-3 hours. It could be 10 minutes. We've both got a dash, or it can literally be like philosophical. And the next thing you know, it's like 1:30 in the morning. It's like, shit, I've got work. So yeah, that's the formalities of today. Quickly though, Cobra Kai season 3 spoiler review is coming tomorrow night. That's pre-recorded, so we recorded that straight after we watched it, fresh off our minds. That was good fun. We've got a spoiler-free video which is out, which I had a lot of fun with. Obviously, we're not going to drop any spoilers, but do check that tomorrow because obviously it's being released on Netflix tomorrow. But that aside, I'm going to go straight into it. Chris, already, you messaged me this, but he actually made this background, and this is one of the reasons why you made it. The thumbnail hit me in the feels, really missing the cinema.
I felt like it was necessary, to be honest. For like I think it's like every year. Have we done like New Year videos other years? I can't even remember. We probably have. We've probably done something, but whenever we're sort of doing like a generic video like this, where it's not particularly a review on something, it's not a watch along, it's not anything focused on any one thing. I never know what to do for the thumbnail. I'm like, I draw a blank, but it felt right to do a cinema theater, movie theater, whatever you want to call it, because as Carl says, I'm missing it too, and I don't want to see them go. And now that we've, in the UK, obviously gone into tier 4 for an indefinite amount of time, we don't know how long we're going to be in this thing. Cinemas aren't making money. Big films aren't coming out. Release dates are getting pushed back, shuffled around, going to streaming, and we don't know what the future of cinema is going to be. We hope it's here to stay. I'm pretty confident that it will be, but I mean, it has taken a massive hit this year for obvious reasons, and we're still in it. We're not out of it yet, so this will continue into 2021. And I guess we're going to sort of like talk about what we think the future is going to be. I'm going to be an optimist right now. Now, as a person, I'm not really an optimist. I'm very much like a negative Nancy. What's the word? Optimist. There's the opposite. Gospel. Pessimist. There we go. I'm only 2 drinks in, folks, I swear. Pessimist, the ultimate pessimist. But I'm going to be hopeful for cinema. I think that it's going to bounce back. but I think things are definitely going to change. And I think we've started to see that right now with streaming services anyway. They were already on the up and up, Netflix, Disney Plus coming in, and, with the release of things like Soul, and people just staying in and watching things on streaming. I think that might become the norm. That being said, going back to earlier in the year when we were released from our homes for a few months and we got the chance to go into London and see Tenet, that was fantastic. And it was a packed cinema, and just being back there, especially for that film, a new Nolan film, which we were both looking forward to come back to the cinema for that film. I mean, regardless of when it was released, if it was a new Nolan film, like, I'm there day one, 100%. But it felt even more special that Nolan sort of stayed the course, and out of any other director was like, no, I'm determined to get this film out in cinemas for people to enjoy. And just being that, I remember watching the film and trying very, very hard to concentrate on the film, every single scene, every single line. But I do remember sort of like looking around me at like a sea of people, because it was packed. It was like a sold out screening, and just thinking, this is right. I feel like I'm at like my second home right now. And I really don't want cinemas to go anywhere.
Yeah, this is what I'm like. We did that video back in June, and I think it was the day after Tenet got delayed again. I think there was like 4 delays. I couldn't tell you which one it was, but it's been worrying. And I think when they reopened, we got to see Tenet. That was the big bravado. We did all the videos and the build up to that. If you guys were following our channel back then, that was probably. I mean, we'll probably get into some deeper stuff like that later. Actually, do a bit more behind the scenes gossip, but that's probably the best moments we've ever had on the channel. But even before that, we went to the cinema to watch Empire Strikes Back because obviously some of the cinemas had reopened and there was nothing else, so they were showing older films. And we got to see Empire. We did a 40th anniversary discussion, which was really good fun. And even when it's a film you've seen hundreds of times at home, it was like, wow, still seeing it on the big screen. We were noticing things we'd never seen before. I can't even remember now, but I just remember us pissing ourselves at a couple of moments.
It was like a random Imperial officer, wasn't it? It was like an Imperial officer that had one throwaway line. I think it was like how the actor said it. And we've seen it like hundreds of times. How we've never noticed that before, I don't know. But it was definitely like a meme-worthy line, I think.
Definitely, and I think that's the thing with cinemas. I'm completely confident that they will be back up and running. The studios cannot make money off streaming. If Mulan had made money off Disney Premium Access, Raya and the Last Dragon wouldn't be releasing at cinemas same time as Premium Access. Soul would have been hidden behind a paywall. Wonder Woman would have been hidden behind a paywall. All of these films, streaming is the future. And don't get me wrong, streaming is one of the greatest, probably, additions to cinema of the last 10, 15 years. You look at things like The Irishman, projects that had not getting picked up anywhere else, and they go to Netflix and they give them the money to do it. And you get these really great stories, Even I didn't watch the chess series that Tate reviewed with Dave. I put the Queen's Gambit. I believe that's been in production for like 30 years. That just no one was picking up, no one was taking. And the same producer had like 7 or 8 script rewrites. There's loads of stories about it on the news the last couple of weeks. And streaming is an absolute blessing, and it's a curse because it is creating these habits from people. And I think me and you are both in the similar vein where we love it when a series drops online. Don't get me wrong, but nothing compares still to the weekly wait. I think Mandalorian is the perfect example. Cobra Kai, I mean, pretty much 3 seasons together over the space like a day and a half. And I could do it Star Wars, but you wouldn't get that waiting every week. What's going to happen? We'd have known Luke Skywalker would have come back inside 5 hours. That'd have been pathetic. Instead of getting to wait 8 weeks, and that's what made it so much better. So I think cinemas are in a really difficult patch because the issue's not necessarily getting the films out, because these films are holding. They're waiting for the cinemas to open, but the cinemas can't open without the world being in a safer place, without vaccinations going up, without there being less cases and whatnot. And the problem with that is that these cinema chains are the ones that are going to go bust before the studios. When they turn around and say, oh my God, suddenly views disappeared, and they have like 500 screens, or they've got the most screens in the UK. Terrible company anyway. Absolutely hate going through. It was my local, and I drive elsewhere, go Cineworld, like Odeon's. I just struggle going to views, but I wouldn't want to see them shut down. And you can't make the studio money without that. And I think that's the really difficult thing now with the studios, is that Tenet was this big push. Now there's been a lot of debate, when it bombed. Yes, it didn't make its money back. made good money internationally, terrible money domestically in America. So I think the audience was there, but I've spoken to people that work at cinemas. When Tenet came out, suddenly people were flocking into the cinema again. People were going there, screenings. I'm not going to say were awful, but certainly for staff, for a company, there's their first income surge of the year. And I don't know if it was me subconsciously, I don't know if other people were the same. We know cinemas make most of their money off food and drinks. So I was making sure I was buying, not more, but I was making sure I didn't sneak in the food and stuff to the cinema screen as normal. Like I paid the ridiculous overpriced M&Ms because it's just something that helps them. And I think as much as we hate those cinema prices, certainly this year it's made a real big difference. And it's not just the cinemas, it's the whole industry. Even if you want to spawn off into theatre, it's a really difficult year to put it lightly and get the depressing stuff out of the way. But there are some positives to take from it. The fact that I think the audience is willing and hungry for when it can come up. I think that Bond is going to be, well, that's the big major release, April. I don't think we're going to get the Cineworld open back till mid-March, dependent on numbers. Probably the same with Odeon. I think it'll be like last time. Bond's going to be their Tenet. If that moves release date, they're going to delay opening them longer. So it's a really tricky situation for everyone to be involved in. But nothing compares to going to the cinema, even if it's something as pathetic as having an ice. I'm not going to say, I've seen some people, I've really missed the people on their phones. I definitely don't. What I do miss, and summed up on Christmas Day, when I was watching Saw, I had one of my friends text me actually as well. Loved it. Had such good fun with it. But I was sat in my bedroom. And I'm very fortunate. I've got a good setup. I take a lot of pride in that. It's still not a cinema screen. It's still not cinema chairs. It's still not this insane surround sound being 50 foot away or whatever it wants to be. You're still in your bed, and it can be great. And certainly there's probably rich people that have their own cinemas at home and stuff, and it's just not the same. And for a new release, it was kind of, I think I was messaging you throughout, and I was like, I would never touch my phone in a cinema, and it's not wrong. And even the Rocky films, right? We did the retro reviews on Rocky. I think we both saw Rocky 1 at the cinema. That's the last film I've seen at the cinema this year, Rocky. Perfect films we've seen at the cinema, don't get me wrong. But that's so weird. I've got my ticket book down there. I'll bring it out later on. But I just kind of made a passing joke. And was it September or October? I can't remember when it was now. I just made a passing joke to everyone, is this the last ever film that I go to the cinema with?
Yeah, and we said if Rocky was the last film that you went to see at the cinema, for me as well, probably. What a way to go out! what a film to go out on! And actually, behind the scenes information, that was what stemmed. That was the origin point for our retro reviews. Is that we knew that all the Rocky films were going to get played at the cinema. I think it was week to week, each one was going to get played all the way from Rocky 1 up to Balboa. And we said, we're probably going to go and see all of these films at the cinema, all of the Rocky films. Let's start reviewing these week to week. And then I think the first one came out, and then we went into lockdown not long after the second one was in cinema. And we said, well, let's just pick up from where we left off. And then that eventually spawned into us doing the reviews on the Rocky films, which has now created a new series for us on the channel, which we love doing, which is retro reviews. But yeah, and I'm glad you went there about the whole home cinema system or whatever you want to call it, because you can have the biggest TV, you can have a fantastic surround sound system, but yeah, as you said, it's never going to compare to the real thing. When we went to see Tenet, now Tenet's an interesting one based on the whole audio of the film, and I agree with everyone that complained about the audio to that film, but the point is, let's go to Dunkirk then as another example. Those gunshots in that film, I don't care how good your sound system is at home, and you've told me about your sound system at home and how deafening it was. I bet it wasn't as deafening as it was when you went to see it at the cinema. And that's the thing, it's that immersion, and it's just the experience. It's just about leaving your home to go and sit in the best sound system, the biggest screen possible at that time, whether it's an IMAX or whether it's just your local cinema. It's just part of the experience. And you remember going to see things, even going back to my past, films that I love, films that have stood out to me. I remember going to the cinema. I remember where I sat, which row I was, whereabouts I was situated in the screen. It's a whole thing. And the concessions as well. When we came out of lockdown and cinemas were open for a while, I did feel like I needed to do my bit. I have got into I was that guy that would go to the pound shop or Home Bargains and stock up on snacks for the low price of £2 or £3. And I'd be good for the trailers of a film because I just scarf it down and then I've got no food for the actual film. as opposed to paying like, what is it, like £7 or £5, £7 for like a tray of nachos or whatever at the cinema. But I felt like I had to do my bit. Ticket prices were low. I think they were like £5. So I felt justified in paying that extra money for those concessions. And that was honestly one of the best things about 2020 for me. Like, obviously it's been turbulent with cinemas and everything, but when they came back out and obviously there were no new releases, it felt like cinema screens were having to think on their feet, and these older films were coming out. And, you know, I will always seize the opportunity to go and see an older film at the cinema, because it is a completely different experience. And I like to sit back and put myself in that mindset of what it would have been like to watch that film back in the day when that was released in cinema and that was what you were seeing. And I got to see so many great films at like my local this time. I got to see like horror films. I got to see The Shining extended edition. I didn't even realize it was the extended edition until I got there. The Exorcist, Nightmare on Elm Street. What else did I go and see? Other films I went to see: Superman the movie, Pulp Fiction, Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, Rocky, so many more as well. And it got to the point where they were spamming so many of these old releases, and I kind of wanted to see them all, and I couldn't fit them in, and I had to prioritize. And there'd be some days, I think, when me and you went to see Empire Strikes Back, I think I'd gone to see like 2 other films previously that day. I think I did like Back to the Future at like 11 a.m. That finished at around 1. I then had an hour wait. I was straight into Pulp Fiction for 3 hours, and then we had a couple of hours to kill. We went and grabbed food together, and then we went to see Empire Strikes Back. Speaking of which, I think Carl's remembered the line that we laughed at. I believe the line was, "It's metal." That was the made you guys laugh. Yeah, I think it was. It's an Imperial officer. I don't know how I never noticed that line. It was brilliant. And another comment from Carl says, I can see the positive side. Film budgets will be reduced, and this will force the director to become more creative. I've also really enjoyed seeing the classics back on the big screen. Absolutely. And this is going to be kind of the negative thing when we come out of this and we start getting the new releases, is that I'm not going to get as many of those old releases. And I think I've said before, and I might backpedal against this, but when I saw the sort of the slate of films that were coming out in 2020 or 2021, there were maybe a handful that I was looking forward to. And just like the movie system now is completely different. And films that come out, they do follow a trend, as they really always have done. But I was sort of going through the motions a bit with new releases, and there were the films that I genuinely did enjoy were very few and far between. So this was like a breath of fresh air for me. The re-releases of older films almost made me find my second wind with film and appreciate film more, and going back to those old classics. And that's kind of why we're doing retro reviews as well. It's nice to go back to some of those old ones and remember why you love film in the first place, really.
Yeah, and I'm not being rude on my phone. I've got my Letterboxd up, and earlier this year, this was really interesting. So you like how many films you watch. So I have my normal January, February, March, probably like 15 a month, 15, 20 a month. And then lockdown came in, right? And the only things I was watching was what we were doing on the channel. And it was getting to a point where I was watching, here we go, May 2020. The only things I saw, not to advertise our videos, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, we did a watch-along. Dumb and Dumber, we did a watch-along. Return of the Jedi, I don't remember me watching that. Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, Drink-Alongs, Classics, The Five Bloods, Chat for the channel, Labyrinth for the channel, Rock of Ages for the channel, Batman and Robin for the channel. And I was really starting to not sort of lose out on it. I was kind of like, not that we have to watch them, because we're quite blessed this year that we didn't have to really watch many films.
But you lost that choice in like what you wanted to watch for yourself.
But then I don't know if it was like backwards anger that I can't go to the cinema to watch the films coming out. I'm stuck at home watching the ones I have at home. And this is a really weird dynamic, because I wasn't wanting to watch films. I wasn't wanting to watch TV. I'm not really that big on watching TV. I hate adverts, and when I get addicted to stuff, as you can tell, Cobra Kai, I tend to watch it till abnormal times. And then let's hit July, okay? Let's see if this works the screen. Then my local reopened on the 31st of July, my Cineworld. It's got Cineworld membership. The release date was Interstellar. This is the following month. There is all of the Nolan films in random orders. Obviously, we were doing Nolan month, but this was me going to the cinema. You guys want to see the Tenet? The hype was real. And it was like, wow, like some of these films I've got. Dunkirk, I saw at the IMAX, and exactly what you said. When these bombed, this was the most surreal experience. I hate people going on their phones. The first time in my life, I was the only person sat in an IMAX. That has never happened. Interstellar on day one, there was probably 40, 50 people, and I was really happy with that turnout. I was just crying myself, as I always do, watching that. And then when Dunkirk came, I think there was a massive F1 race on, and I was gutted. And I sat down, no one was coming. I was like, this isn't right. Like, have I come in here early? And no one turned up, and Dunkirk starts. We're all familiar with, I'm not going to do a review, but I remember messaging you, like, Chris was like, it's empty. And I think I even like took a photo of the screen, one of our like sort of memes that we send each other, and there's just no one around. And I was like on my phone, like watching the F1, and it felt like I was at home, that I had my IMAX in like my bedroom or something, because I felt really lazy. And if someone had been there, I'd never have done that. I'd have switched on 100%. But it's kind of what you said, that granted that was one director in his work, but the moment the cinemas opened, suddenly I was watching films again at the cinema and at home. And it was quite strange, because I wouldn't say like lockdown one, I had as much as you can say you had a tremendous time. I redecorated my entire room. I did that Lego project, which I think you know about, when I had the Lego boxes on the floor for like 3 months. I was going through all the sets as a kid and restoring them. And lockdown one was really productive. And then the cinemas reopened, and that was me done. I was back. And it was nice to do something else. But even aside from film, like, I'm big on football and big on Formula One. Football season disappeared. Never happened to me. Just dropped mid-season. That came back in June. Formula One season started 4 months late. Ended up working somehow, was a miracle. Still going around the country during a pandemic. Not country, the world. It's just been quite crazy. And the cinema stuff is a shame, because I've actually grabbed the ticket book out. I'm not going to go through it, because you've been bored of this many a time. I've kept every cinema ticket from the first time I watched Rush in 2013. I used to keep my IMAX tickets, and basically what I do, I have ticket books where I like take the tickets, stick them in. It's like a memento. So basically, I spent 7 years on a book, and it finished at the start of the year. And I was filling in all of these, and it's just good fun. And when Soul and Wonder Woman came out, here we go. There's the one everyone's looking for. Tenet, 2 pages. When Soul and Wonder Woman came out, I'd said to you that I really wanted to watch Wonder Woman at the cinema. I mean, the film was terrible. I wasn't that impressed by the second trailer, but the film was quite personal to me. I ended up working at my old job. I don't care that I've said that. And I was quite personally connected to that, as I was with Rocket Man. So I didn't want to watch that at home in my room. And granted, the film was terrible. I would still, even if it was crap, I'd rather have been at the cinema. Granted, I wouldn't. There's nothing worse than driving somewhere and figuring out that it's crap and all that stuff. But the fact that I know it's OCD. I can't say I saw it at a cinema and stick it in the ticket book. It's really annoying. The same with Soul. I'd have loved to watch Soul at the cinema. Granted, me and you always joke about how uncomfortable it can be if you go to a Pixar film by yourself. Certainly on a certain time of day and a day.
Any animated film now, really, Disney, Pixar, regardless of what it is, like, just I've hit that age now where it's like you never know where to sit, and you just feel awkward. And it's like, do you sit on the back row, but then you look dodgy? Do you sit on the side, on the aisles? You still look dodgy. It's just awkward.
Middle side, furthest away from the door, so that when they walk and they see you, you're not hidden behind the door. That's really Inside Out's the classic one. I don't know if that's on our channel, the story of that, but Inside Out is without doubt the worst. Should I actually tell it? The story of Inside Out. So I love Pixar films. I'm not massive on animation I respect animation, but I've never been as naturally into it's probably a politer word. And I was really excited for Inside Out, and I went to the cinema, and it was during one of those summers where it was like, oh my God, I'd 2015. So, you're at uni, you finish early, and you go to the cinema every day. I'd go before work. At that point, I worked in retail when I was studying, and I'd always work in the afternoon, go cinema in the mornings. And I just remember sat down on I think it was the Friday morning, the release date, or the Monday morning, the week, couple of days after. Got in early as I did, had my drink, had my food. And then about 4 families walked past. I was like, oh, there must be toddlers at school. And then more families kept coming in. And I was like, shit. I was like, it's the summer holidays, isn't it? I had to Google the summer holidays for like Warwickshire at the time, because each district is differently. And I remember being traumatized, and suddenly I was on edge. And like, it's when like you make awkward eye contact with like a parent, and they're kind of like scowling at you, like, why are you here? And after that, I've always been really uncomfortable. I don't think I watched an animated film at the cinema until Onward at the start of the year, which was empty, and that was at an IMAX for some reason. Not sure why that was at an IMAX, but it was empty by like 2 people, and I snuck in easily. But yeah, it's strange, and I even miss the awkward things like that because watching Soul, like that is not a film for kids. Like, thank God there wasn't any screaming kids or anything. But I don't know, it's been ever so strange. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any really awkward cinema experiences? Actually, yeah, people watching, comment. What is your most awkward cinema experience? That's probably that. That's probably mine. I have to say, just in terms of it scarred me off going to the cinema. There's going to be so many.
It's usually, I mean, this is sort of like an awkward experience. I probably have had some, but that's kind of put me on the spot there. I'd have to think about that. But I've always hated where you've got a completely barren cinema screen, like just seats everywhere. You pick your seat. Usually I'm sort of like middle back or like a few rows from the back. So you can take in the full size of the screen. You're not craning your neck up, and you're far enough back. You can take it all in. You can observe the room. And like there's no one in there, and like a guy or a family will come in and they'll sit smack bang next to you. That's always like a thing that really annoys me. That's more of an annoyance, I guess, than an awkward experience. But I don't know, you just feel more enclosed, especially when you got to share the armrest, and it's like, do you get half? Do you get 50% of the armrest? Do you sort of like wrestle and like take it for yourself? Like, I don't know. And then it almost feels like you can't not get immersed in the film, but you're conscious of people around you. So I guess that's going to be a thing as well for like streaming, like an argument for streaming, I guess. If you're an extroverted or introverted person, if that kind of stuff bothers you, like, would you prefer to watch it in the comfort of your own home where you can get your own snacks, or you can do whatever you want, you can just get comfy and just watch it yourself? Or would you rather go to one of these places and just, you're kind of at the mercy of everyone else? Because if someone's you had a film, I think, was it one of the Bond films? Was it Spectre when you went to see? And someone was just talking through the entire thing?
Mission Impossible, not Fallout, Ghost. I lose track. It was. I
remember you saying there was like a girl or like a couple of girls. They were just on their phone, just talking throughout the entire film.
There's so many. There's the one that stands out the most is I actually had to go at some little shit when I was watching Mission Impossible. Which one's the fifth one? Not Fallout. The one before. Looking at my shelf. Rogue Nation. Rogue Nation. That's it. And it was the opera scene. And I think if anyone's bored enough, you can backtrack to some of our first ever videos on the channel, which we laugh at how bad they are because it's audio only. And it was the summer holidays. I was with one of my friends, so it was right. And I was really looking forward to Mission Impossible. Loved Tom Cruise. Was loving this franchise. And these kids kept shouting like biscuits and like throwing things at each other. And it was a packed cinema. And this is what was weird. It was day one, and I was really not having this. And it got to about 30 minutes. I just turned around and it's the first time I've ever done it at a cinema screen. I don't care. They were probably like 6, 7 years younger than me.
It's always awkward to do, though, isn't it?
I know.
You never want to do it, but you feel compelled to at some point.
When does it reach boiling point? And it did. And I just said, shut the fuck up. And they stopped. But the family next to them had gone and complained because there was like a family trying to go. And then there's that. And I'm trying to think. Thor Ragnarok was another. It was half term, and now I didn't like Thor Ragnarok on the first viewing. I don't know if this was the experience, but yeah, the first time I watched, I was like, oh, this isn't really what I expected from Thor. This is a bit different. I'm not sure if I like it. Completely changed when I started rewatching it many times since. And it was half term. There's just like 14-year-old like school kids like trying to impress each other, throwing stuff. And I just go back to when I was at school, and it wasn't even that long ago. It was what 2012 I left secondary school, and yeah, you had a couple of immature people, but I'd still go with the cinema mates. We'd be going to IMAX as we were mature. We would need to cause drama. And I just remember there's going to be so many experiences of really bad, annoying people, aren't there? I feel like there was one recently. Luckily, my Tenet experiences were pretty good. That you just get so many of them. And I don't miss it, but I just miss, do I want to be at the cinema watching this gargantuan A-list? I mean, let's talk really quickly back to streaming. So Bond's out in April, and obviously MGM Studios are for sale. They own the rights not just to James Bond, but also to Rocky. You predicted it perfectly many weeks ago that I think between us we said we're expecting one studio to sell up over next year. You said I always said it'd be Paramount. You said MGM. They're for sale, so I guess you win this round. We'll find out who does go for the kill. And it was on the news that they were going to offer the Bond rights out for $700 million. And not the Bond rights, the distribution rights for No Time to Die, and they offered it to Apple and Netflix because obviously $250 million production budget, double that for marketing, plus a nice tidy 200 mil profit after that. Obviously, all the streaming services said no, because that once again proves that big films cannot be released, all that stuff via streaming services. They don't have the money to cover that. Amazon probably could if they wanted to make a loss, because Jeff Bezos isn't short of cash. But I just sat there being horrified, like, I want to watch No Time to Die at the BFI, thank you very much. I want to be in IMAX. I go traditionally with my parents, or I go with one of my best friends. We've done it every film since Skyfall, because that's when we first met each other. Obviously, my family have gone all the way back to World's Not Enough as a 3-year-old with a VHS and a PS1 game, and I don't want to sit there in my lounge watching it. I want to. I mean, I'm happy to do it in the future when I've seen it, but not. It's that first viewing. The first viewing is everything.
Well, that's one of the big stipulations for you, isn't it? It's the Bond films, is that these have to be on the big screen. And I agree with that as well. Like, they are that franchise that has to be on the big screen. Like, I think that the day that Bond moves, we even said that we were speculating about which studio would buy MGM, and we narrowed it down to, what was it, Amazon and Disney Plus, or Disney, sorry. And Disney are owning the world at the moment. They seem to own everything. And like, whenever a company goes under, they're like fucking vultures just circling the carcass of that studio and then just grab it for like a small fee. And I kept thinking, like, you asked me the question, you said, would you rather have Bond out? Would you rather have a movie studio go bust, MGM, or would you rather have Disney buy out MGM? And I replied to you with a ... Like, I don't know, like, maybe let MGM just sort of retire. You know, they fell on hard times and eventually went under, and I'd rather have that happen than Disney just taking MGM and owning even more things, and that monopoly, getting bigger and bigger, and them technically owning Rocky and Bond and all these franchises. It just wouldn't be right, would it? Just wouldn't be right. It's a very strange situation, but it's a very real situation, and we're seeing it happening right in front of us. It's a very uncertain financial times, and of course, movie studios are going to go under, and Disney just keep getting more bloated and bigger. They're like Bib Fortuna at the end of Mandalorian season 2, just sitting on their throne. Just absolute gluttony. But we do have a few comments I do want to get to. We have Iris in the comments. Hello, guys. Happy New Year after midnight here in Italy. Happy New Year to everyone in Italy. And as I mentioned in the comment, you will get another New Year celebration in just under half hour's time. This actually flew by. We have a lot of things to talk about.
It's like pontificating. It's just shooting the shit, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. It's brilliant. Yeah.
This is completely natural, guys. Normally we have bullet points. We have nothing. But yeah, let's bring up some more. We've got Carl's got his best and worst. I'm going to leave you this one for you. This is your favorite.
Thank you. Okay, so Carl says, the best experience I had this year was seeing the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition trilogy in one day. Jesus Christ. I have done that, so I know what that feels like. I had the screen to myself. That is mad that you had it to yourself. Like, people, go and see the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. Jesus. I think people got wise and realized that I ain't doing that in a day. For us, I know it got released for us at our local, and it was sort of like one each day, which I think is a much more manageable way of getting through that trilogy. I have actually done a marathon screening. I've only done it once. I tried to do it in the comfort of my own home. I got to the first disc of Two Towers. We got to Treebeard, and I just turned to my friends and said, what are we actually doing with our lives right now? And we turned it off. We couldn't make it through it. But I did it at the Prince Charles Cinema in London. Oh, God, how many years ago would that be now? Like 2 years ago? 3 years ago? Probably 3 years ago. And it was from 9 p.m. in the evening all the way throughout the night to 8 a.m. the next day. And I don't know if anyone's gone to the Prince Charles Cinema in London. If they do a big marathon screening, you get I think they call it the survivor's photo at the end. And you just look like you've been liberated from a prisoner of war camp. It's not a pretty picture. It's not a good sight. It was not a good look for me that time. And in that moment, I hated Lord of the Rings. I never wanted to watch it again. It's not the way to watch it. You cannot do a marathon, but I know what that feels like. But hey, I will never pass up the opportunity to go and see those films on the big screen. And it was great to see them on the big screen earlier this year as well. Can't believe I forgot to mention those when I mentioned all the older films that came out. And yes, I do have to say older films now because, next December, 20 years old. I keep kidding myself that I'm younger than I actually am. I keep getting older every year. It's funny how that works. And Cole says, I think this is talking about awkward experiences now
Yeah.
in the cinema again. Mine was Inside Out. It seems like it's a running theme, doesn't it, with Inside Out? I had a mum and a daughter sit next to me. The girl turned to me, saw I was by myself, and asked, "Why are you by yourself? Don't you have any friends?" That's horrible. That's horrible. Shame on them. Who says like, this is the thing? Like, it's awkward going to see an animated film by yourself. It is like it's just you hit a certain age, you grow a certain facial hair, and it's a weird look. It's not good. But it's like, why can't I pay my money and come to see a well-written, emotional film with fantastic animation and probably one of the best films of the year? So I don't know. You kind of chalk it up to that. I am well. This is like going to give away my age now, but next month, well, technically this month in 20 minutes time, I am going to be 28. So I'm on the good side of 30. But I tell you what, when I tick over into 30 in a couple of years' time, that's going to be really awkward going to see Disney films. I don't know what's going to happen about that. Carl also says, I also had a European couple sitting behind me, and I think I think he was translating the film to his wife. That will teach me to go and see a Transformer movie.
Which one?
Yeah, I want to know which one too.
I just want to like imagine someone translating like Mudflap and Skids' dialogue to one another. Transformers, though. Sorry, I think I've ended, Chris.
Continue, please. Help me out here.
I had this thought a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, what franchise have I seen every film at the cinema for? And I'm talking natural. I'm not saying I've seen it on a re-release. Where have I seen every film? And I think Transformers is one of the only films where I've seen all of them from the first one through to Bumblebee at a cinema. I'm not counting the Transformers the movie. Because obviously that's very different, but that's why the Bayhem is strong. Fun fact, Carl's Dark Side of the Moon, that is the best of the three. That's one of my favourite films. Not of all time, but of like action-wise. 2011, it was a good time to be a fan of 3D. I think I saw that 3 times at the cinema, and I went to my second ever IMAX screening, and that was Transformers 3 on my birthday in 2011. I just turned 15. I'm trying to think of some other stuff. We've got Henok in the comments as well. Happy New Year from Sweden. We celebrate our toast, like the rest of England did as well. Henok, thank you for coming on. I said we've had a lot of our people returning to us today. It's been good fun. Henok's been with us on all the Rocky ones. Kyle, you've been with us all year round, my friend. And Iris, we do get you coming in as well. It's just good to catch up with people. The fact that you guys, it's like New Year's Day and you're tuning in is pretty cool. Because we would have probably had this conversation at some point. We've probably already had some of these conversations at some point, and we'll probably have them again in the future. Mm-hmm. But it just makes it so much more chilled out when we can just chat off the record. Like when the ticket book comes out, I think when I moved away a couple of years ago, I was with one of my best friends. He's like, "What on earth is this?" And I was like, "This is the ticket book, like Rob's hand." Someone I went to school with, and we went through it. And he's like, "Hold on, so there are films in here that we've been to the cinema to like years ago." I was like, "Yeah." I think we had like Black Klansman, Straight Outta Compton, and a couple of others. That was one of my good friends that I lived and worked with, went to college with as well. So, yeah, I'm just trying to think.
I still have a couple of ticket stubs myself. I don't have like a whole scrapbook of them or anything like that, but the ink's kind of faded on them now because they're way back from like, Jesus, I don't know, like 2009, 2010, something like that. Like, well, a decade old now, over a decade old. Christ, I'm old. I think I've still got my Dark Knight one. I remember that. It's in the case. I think I kept like 2 from that. And one of the things that I love most about old ticket stubs is not just having them, because now they're sort of like on a paper receipt. I suppose it depends where you go, really. Some places you get like an actual ticket. Sometimes you just get like a paper receipt, and it's just not the same. I don't keep those. I prefer like the actual physical ticket. It's seeing the price for cinema tickets way back when and how much they are now. And it's, it's inflation. It's a thing. But when I paid like £3 something to go and see Paranormal Activity 1 at the cinema, which I think I still have the ticket stub for. I think it's in my DVD case. I used to put them in my DVD cases. And now, like, Jesus, a price is going to go up when cinemas reopen, like to recoup the cost. Like, I expect they must have to. But you're paying like, what, £13, £11 to £13 for a cinema ticket now? Like, it's a small fortune, really. And this is why they get you to get one of those, like, club cards or whatever, you like, the unlimited cards where you can, for like, it's like less than £20 a month, you can go and see as many films as you want. I mean, after 2 films, it's just paying for itself at that point.
and that's why I think when I moved away, because near me there's a View, and View are the only chain refusing to do it. They just say all of our tickets are £5. It's like, yeah, but if I go 6 times a month, that's still 30 quid. And then obviously because I didn't drive before I moved away as well, I was always stuck there. And the moment I moved away, I signed up to Cineworld. It was like the first thing I did. Text from friends like, "Can you send me a referral code? You'll get a free month. I'm doing you a favor." I think it was the Leicester Square one, so I pay like £20, 40 a month when it's active, and it pays for itself. You know, the fact that I saw Tenet, and you get the IMAX subsidiaries as well. So if there's an IMAX film, I think I pay £4. Don't mind paying £4. It would have been, I mean, the travesty of the BFI IMAX was when those tickets were on sale and it came to the morning and we were like, what? I think it was £21 each. And as the exception of exceptions, I didn't mind it for that. And that was including my BFI member discount at the time, which is even worse.
But it felt more like an event, didn't it? So I remember you telling me, because you were ordering the tickets for us, and I was expecting to pay, I don't know, like what's the going rate for IMAX? Like what, 14, 15 pounds? Yeah, something like that. He was like, yeah, it's going to be this. I was like, oh, okay, George. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It's Tenet. It's Christopher Nolan. It's fine. But yeah, when it's a film like that, I don't mind paying more. If it means that I'm going to get good seats, if it means I'm going to get guaranteed seats, and I'm going to see it, then, you know, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, they were kind of like taking the piss a little bit with that. And I don't know if that's sort of like the going rate now, if they just bumped up the prices because it was a new Nolan film in IMAX.
Probably both.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of questions. Carl,
do you
remember which film made you love film?
Well, that must be one of the best questions we've ever had. Go on.
I was 3 when I was taken to the cinema to watch Phantom Menace. I'm always told the story. Our family were on holiday somewhere in England, like holiday resort or something, and I kept picking up a colouring book that was Star Wars. And this is what shocks Chris the most, as I've ever said on the channel. My dad had never seen Star Wars, and he's a child of the 60s. I was obviously when I grew up, I was like, wait, you're the only guy in the world that didn't see Star Wars. My mum was seeing it and just kept picking up this colouring book. They took us to the cinema. The rest is history. I saw it 7 times at the age of 3. I think my grandparents took me, my aunties took me, everyone was taking me. I think back then films are probably out of the cinema for like 5 to 6 months. So I can't say that made me fall in love with film. That was more the Star Wars stuff, which kickstarted the rest. But I will say it again, and I'm not going to do the whole story because Chris has heard this far too many times this year. The Dark Knight in 2008. Went to the cinema. Big bravado. Check out our... this sounds so rude. I don't mean this to be rude. On the Dark Knight video, there's like a 5-10 minute story. But I came out of that screening being blown away. And that's when I started looking into film itself, cinematography, music, all that kind of stuff stemmed off the back of the Dark Knight. A couple of smaller films on the way to get to that point. But I think Dark Knight was the tipping point. Being year 7 as well at school, you're at that age where you're starting to not notice what you want to do, but it's kind of like... that was really cool. I want to learn more about this. And at school, I was the film and the football guy. Wasn't as good at football as my knowledge is, but still made good fun. I don't know if you can remember yours.
I can't remember sort of like the one inciting film which sparked everything. If we're talking about sort of like first film experiences, I've sort of gone through Wikipedia. You know, like you type in a year. I don't know, 19. I'm a 1993 born kid, so I type in like 1996 in film, and you get a list of everything. And I've tried to trace it back to the first film that I can remember going to see at the cinema, and the one that comes to mind is actually a Disney film. It was in 1996, so I'd have been 3 years old, and it's The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is actually probably one of my favorite Disney films even now. And I don't know, I just have some, like, I don't even remember the film all that much. I just have a sense memory of like certain scenes from it and going to the cinema to see it. I remember going to see the Disney film that came after this, which was Disney's Hercules, and me and my dad went. You know, my dad used to take me every single weekend to the cinema, which wasn't Odeon at the time. It was a different name back then, which isn't running now. It's not a cinema chain that's going. And me and him were the only ones in the cinema. So it was a lot of those big hitter Disney films that used to come out of the cinema when they were like, you know, absolutely massive. Well, I guess they're massive now, you know, with like Frozen and Moana and everything like that. So I remember seeing that, but that didn't get me into film. I just remember sort of being surrounded by film. It was like VHS cassette tapes, and you know, your parents would have some, and there'd be these films. You'd be like, "Oh, what's this?" And you'd pop it in. I remember Definitely Batman 89. That's one that always sticks out to me. And I think this is probably a story that you're probably bored of hearing, is that it's the first superhero film I ever watched. I think my uncle's a big film fan. He's got like thousands of VHS still in his room. He's got like over 2,000 DVDs. He just constantly keeps buying them, forgetting which ones he's bought and then buys them again. And I think he had two duplicates of Batman 89, and he gave us one of them. And I just remember looking at the case and picking up like, what is this Batman? Like, this case just looks, the logo and everything with the emblem on the front. I was just kind of drawn to it. And I remember seeing that, and it was a 15, and God knows what age I was. I was considerably younger at the time, and just like pleading with my mum, can I please watch this film? And she eventually relented, and I got to watch it, and it completely changed everything. Loved it. I've got to give credit to Phantom Menace as well. You know what? I'd probably say it was Phantom Menace in a weird way. I remember, I was 6 years old when that film came out, and that got me into one of my favorite franchises of all time, Star Wars. That was the inciting film that got me into it. And I still remember seeing the pod race. I remember it's probably one of those first movies that you're aware of the sheer amount of merchandise and everything. And even going up like, the loft, the attic. Even now I'm finding all these toys. Like, I was such a spoiled kid at the time. I had all these Phantom Menace toys. So just in terms of everything and the sheer impact that it had on me, I'd actually say Phantom Menace, which, is a charged film title to a lot of people because they hate it. But as arguably it is. Yeah, our generation, exactly. And that's what it comes down to. It is that nostalgia, and that is a big powerhouse behind it. But you mentioned The Dark Knight, and sort of in my teens, sort of like getting towards adulthood, that is the other film that stands out to me. It's like Phantom Menace as a kid, and then that as like getting in towards adult, going into like your last couple of years of school or going on to uni or whatever it happens to be. That was the film where I was like, oh my God, everyone in this cinema, it's packed out. Everyone is wearing a Joker or a Batman t-shirt. Everyone is here for this film. And that was the film that sort of made me clue on and be aware to it. And as you said, like, you write dissertations, you write essays on all this stuff. And I think we both picked like stuff to do with The Dark Knight, didn't we? Probably in our education.
And that's what's funny, because I mean, I wouldn't say we are similar with our taste. We're very similar with our taste. That's probably why we get on so well. But we do have our differences.
We do have, exactly. Yeah, I was going to say we do have our differences. Last Jedi.
You know which one. We always have this discussion, and then we'll occasionally get, did you write about this at uni? 'Cause we didn't know this when we met, that we went to the same uni on the same course 3 years apart. Yeah, which is bizarre. There's timing and there's that, and
it was still equally awful when you went there as well.
Exactly. We both did okay out of it, but we were wise to how it wasn't great. And I had another really good point to make, and I completely forgotten. I think I was going to talk about Phantom Menace merch, but that's a whole another discussion. For a great story for another time. I'm going to bring up one of Henok's. So I don't know if this was obvious or clear. So what sort of cosplay convention have you gone to? Now, I have never gone specifically to a cosplay convention. I am going to bring a shameful photo up. I have cosplayed once in my entire life. It was 2015. The Force is Awakening. We'd met just. I went to a convention in Sheffield because Billy D. Williams was going to be there. And I'd just been to my first convention like 2 months before, and one of my really good friends from work at the time had like Jedi robes. I was like, that's sick. I want some. So I bought some.
Have I seen this photo? I feel like
I don't know. You probably have years ago. I don't like to share this. I've got a lot of friends, a lot of close friends in Rebel Legion, Five of Us, all of that. I've got a shit ton of respect for them because the heat was unbearable. It gave me rashes on my back that were there for months. I had to go to doctors to get some help for. I don't know how people do it in the heat. And I was a lot thinner then as well, so God knows how much worse it'd be now. But I have one photo left from the day with the late great Jamie Bullock, because I'm not really into photos, and you know me well, right? I dressed up, and then that was the day I realized that, hold on, when you dress up, you're actually meant to have photos taken of you, not because you want to dress up. Which is probably why I never did it again. I don't know if that's arrogance, like, because you couldn't say no. They'd be like, look, I feel really uncomfortable like taking photos of all these people. But we met Jeremy Bullock, who came over, didn't charge us for a photo. We know how conventions are. Didn't charge us. He was chatting to us for ages, and I've got a photo of it. So behold my Star Wars cosplay, which
oh my God,
is the only time you'll ever see it. It was a really cool photo. He was lovely.
I don't think I've seen that one.
I don't share it. I do not share it. So that is the only time people will see it. There's like a little after hours. I'm deleting that off the system. There we go. But cosplay conventions, not really. Normal conventions, me and you have done dozens. We're in this convention world, and this has been one of the big hits of 2020 is that obviously we're not getting films, but our normal stuff, as I'm into football, F1, gone. Conventions was like not the last hurrah, but you were at one of the last conventions before lockdown came in, I think in Liverpool. Normal conventions, there's just been nothing. And the sad thing is that over lockdown, everyone's started doing private signings, and they make far more money at private signings than they do at conventions because they make most of the money via photos, not doing photos because they prefer doing photos to autographs. If you want to, basically private signings are probably the future of conventions now, and the people that will go to conventions will have those prices upped big time because they've probably spent a year doing them in the leisure of their lounge at their own time. You're seeing, not to get into an autograph conversation, but Natalie Portman, the rarest autograph of all 11 Star Wars films, is doing her first ever private signing next year. And that's how, I don't know, whether there's more to it, and she's ridiculously expensive, but it's what I messaged you. She's charging less than half of what her autographs were going for the last 20 years. I still can't afford it. But normal conventions, I miss them a lot. I'm not into the dressing up stuff, as I said. I respect a lot of people that do it. I'm in the R2 Builders Club, so I'm very fortunate that most conventions I go to now, I go in with them. I take my camera, do photography because they help me with my documentary at uni. So I'm always there to help them, and I get to get in early. So I think we've had a couple conventions you've been to with us where I've been able to like point people in the right direction. Like when you come in, head this way to get to the autograph booth to get the best number. So it's a really good club, but conventions wise, it's a big social thing. I'm pretty good at missing out on, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I have missed it, but the hit to my bank hasn't been quite as severe this year. I will say that the first convention I went to, like the first proper convention, I kind of threw myself in the deep end. It was Star Wars Celebration of 2016, I believe it was. And I don't know if you guys can see it. That poster there is from 2016, and that's my pride and joy. That has the most signatures on it. But yeah, it was full on. It was like, oh my god, I'm meeting people I've seen on a screen my whole life, and it was weird. And you have to kind of get over those butterflies in your stomach. Like, oh my god, it's Mark Hamill, it's Carrie Fisher, and like when we went to it, that was 6 months later with Carrie Fisher, and even with Kenny Baker as well. I think we were very fortunate to get to that, and we got to meet them, we got to see them, we got to have a conversation with them, and just be. In terms of a convention, it's not like your everyday Comic-Con. This was Star Wars Celebration. This was massive. This was panels. The conditions, again, going to like a prisoner of war thing. I think there's better conditions in prisoner of war camps than what we had to endure that one night, where to get a wristband, you had to sort of stay in the main lobby. You had to queue. You had like a cardboard box flattened out. And you like shared like a portion, like a corner of your cardboard box. I was like, Chris, come on, lie down, get on this comfy cardboard box for like the next few hours. And that was it. Like if you wanted to get a wristband to see what the future was for Star Wars for episode 8, you had to lay on that cardboard box. And in hindsight, would I have lay on a cardboard box for X amount of hours if I knew that episode 8 was going to be what it was? Probably not, but it was a great experience and I got to experience it. And, that kind of sparked my love for conventions and really sort of like my autograph collecting. I'm very selective about it though, as sort of like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars are sort of like my big two. And like me and you both are, I won't say our interests, but it's dipped because we've got most of the people that we want. There is still like one major one, which we're both after, which hopefully we'll get at some point. But I've been to like MCM, Comic-Con, just most of the ones around the UK, really. Showmaster, exactly. Like one's in London, one's in Birmingham, Manchester. I've traveled quite a bit for them. There you go.
We don't have a photo of us, but this is the one we queued for. This is the Future Filmmakers panel. So we had obviously really awkwardly that Phil Lord and Chris Miller, with Kerry Hart, who also left the story group shortly after. We got Alden's unveiling, but obviously the reunion. This is my sister's fault. I'm not taking credit for this. Obviously we got Mark and Kerry with their dogs on the stage, and that was sick. I've only ever done one foreign convention, which was Chicago last year for Celebration. That was an experience like no other. I'd never been to America. Every stereotype you can imagine is true. I'm sorry, American viewers, but it's just a fact. You'd go into shops and there were guns on sale, and it is as you read it. And most of the people were lovely. The stereotype that if you're English, they love you is absolutely true. I met some good friends there. We had Blue Bantha Milk on the channel when we did Mandalorian. Matt, I met in there. We shared never done a hostel, not into that kind of thing, but America's not cheap to go to, so I did it, and that's how we met, and that was pretty cool, and it was an experience. And I've got tickets for 2022. I'm glad the only probably positive of the pandemic I can say from a selfish point of view is I probably wouldn't have been able to afford it to go this year even if I had a ticket. So when they moved it to 2022, I was like, yes, I've now got 2 years to save up. But obviously, the funny thing with Chicago is that was we're announcing episode 9 video. And obviously none of us were expected what happened after. But that being said, I'm trying to think of anything else because we're almost at midnight.
I've got a live timer up on my screen. Okay, so we're like a minute and a half out, 90 seconds of 2020. So I guess briefly, I think it's best moment of 2020. It seems a bit disingenuous to say best moment of 2020 because I know it's been a hard year for a lot of people. Should we say best film? Just straight off the bat, just if we can pick one.
I'll say Tenet, and I won't give a description. But what I will say is that after that film, we drive back on the motorway, and there were 4 trucks, and that has forever shaped that. So I'm going to leave that as that. And there are many truck videos which I can't share on here for legal reasons, of which Chris gets sent when I think of that scene.
God, it's really tough because I've seen Tenet a few more times now. We're less than a minute, by the way, till 2021. I am keeping an eye on the timer. Tenet would be up there just from the sheer hype that we had before there, the journey there, which was a quest and an adventure in itself. The seeing of the film, the driving back where we were surrounded by 3 trucks. We were 1 truck away from full bingo in terms of the trucks. Definitely that's up there for me. Also, beginning of the year, going all the way back, The Gentleman, Guy Ritchie. Absolutely loved it. I need to rewatch that again. We are... Oh my God, do the math, Chris. Jesus, I've had too much gin, I think. We're 10 seconds away. Oh my God, hang on. 10 seconds. So 9, 8. We're going to do the countdown. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. We are into 2021. Happy New Year, everyone. I know that we don't usually do the big hurrah fanfare. We don't have party poppers. We don't have the whole I
did the Tenet countdown, the car window. Tenet.
We did the Tenet countdown. Happy New Year, everyone. We hope that we're still in the same situation. We certainly are in the UK. Can't vouch for the rest of the world, but we certainly are in the UK. But no, good vibes for 2021. Actually, we've sort of cobbled together today. Well, I don't say cobbled together. That sounds like we've just threw it together. We spent many hours deliberating on our 2021 schedule. Every single month, we made a note of every big film coming out this year. And we've got some big plans for 2021. And I kind of want to say that, I don't want to make this a really big-headed thing, but the channel, it's been great. The last couple of months, I think that we've sort of found a through line. We've found a focus and everything. And I'm really, really excited. Not just for stuff in general for 2021, but especially regarding Cinema Savvy as a channel. We've got a lot of things planned. And I don't know if we want to go over it all now because we have more or less planned it. I'd say we've 80% planned it throughout for the entirety of 2021. So we're not going to bore you all the way up until December next year because it's too far off. But I think we're probably going to be on for another 10, 15 minutes. I don't even know how long we're going to be on for. This is fun. But we might give some things away as to what we've got planned.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that because we're not going to get personal and emotional and stuff. But a year ago, we went in the best places. Probably, I don't mind saying it, between me and you, we've had our issues in the past and we've got through it, which is good.
Hang on, we've lost George. Not now. Come on, this was the speech. Oh wow, George is gone. This is like longer than normal.
Hello, sorry, it cut me out there. What?
Yeah, you ended on we had our issues in the past. You
Oh
need
my
to
God,
continue. You need to continue.
that's really bad. No, we've had issues. We've resolved them. We've got through them, which has been phenomenal. We weren't enjoying films that were coming out beforehand, as you said. I think 2019 was it the first film you liked of the year? Not horribly put. Was probably Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Because I remember the pair of us were like, we're watching films. I mean, I hadn't even gone to the cinema. I was basically off the channel at this point because of my old job, and obviously had to switch jobs and stuff. And I came back, and it was July, August. I was like, right, we can do Tarantino things, and we kind of pushed on. And then, very fortunately, via the pandemic, we kind of, me, you, and Tate sat down and says, okay, let's do something completely different. Let's not do what we've been doing. And then the quiz idea came in, which I think was you two combined, which was phenomenal. We had a lot of fun. The key thing here is the word schedule. And then we had the started off as the drink alongs, which was going to be every week. And then me and you both said that the livers, I mean, you can't see it. I do have some stuff in here, but not much.
What are we drinking, by the way? Shall we say we didn't?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna top up because mine seems pretty big. I have my usual JD, but I've actually put Coke in this time, not Pepsi Max, because after throwing up charcoal at Revenge of the Sith, I don't really want to do it again.
I'm trying a new drink. So this is a Haysmith's Seville Orange and Persian Lime Gin. I got this based on the bottle alone. It's got a nice sort of like wooden cork in there. And I never tried gin. This is my first time trying gin, and I'm having a whale of a time. I'm mixing it with lemonade. I do still have. Tate bought me this many years ago for my birthday. Gentleman's Jack. I still do have a little bit left. And I actually think that... God, I look like an absolute pisshead right now. I swear to God, I never drink. I only drink socially or for special live stream occasions like this. I still have my Tomova vodka, which I think has been there since Revenge of the Sith. Whenever the last drink along was that we did, I think it's still been there. I've just been too lazy to take it down. So, yeah, it's always there if I need it.
This is the drinking bottle for our drink alongs. This is from Chicago. Didn't think this was one of the greatest drinks of all time. Now, if you have been to conventions, I'm actually going to say this. The worst thing about them is drinks and food. It's like, you want a bottle of water because you're dehydrated? £6, please. So I went to Chicago, and on day one, everyone had these cups. I was like, oh, where did they get the Star Wars cups from? Why has everyone bought them? It's a bit random, a cup. And then I saw a vending machine, and it was like, buy a Star Wars Celebration cup for $20, and you get free refills for the 5-day convention. That is, without a doubt, 20 of the best dollars I've ever spent, because we know how bad conventions are. Getting there at like 6 a.m. to queue, run in. I don't drink coffee. I'm not like most people. I don't have tea or coffee, and get a nice cold cup of water in there, or get some Fanta as the day goes on. And this is a lifesaver. And this has been the drink along cup.
I wish I'd have had that cup when I went to Star Wars Celebration, because going back to that day, I remember going 48 hours with no water, or like maybe like a sip from someone else's bottle or something. I don't know if it was you. Tom, if anyone remembers Tom on the channel, he was there with us as well. Star Wars Celebration probably had like a bit of water from him, and nothing but white chocolate protein bars. I took a box of protein bars with me, and I think I existed on those alone 48 hours. Would not recommend. I did not feel good after those 48 hours. Was completely dehydrated. We do have a comment from Carl, actually. He says the quizzes were brilliant. I know this is sort of like going off on another tangent. We do miss the quizzes, and we have been talking behind the scenes about the quizzes, whether we should bring them back. When's the right time to bring them back? Will anyone still watch? Are people even still doing quizzes? And we did them for like quite a while, and is there even another topic that we can do a quiz on?
We've got franchises. I mean, we did the Star Wars one, which was phenomenal. That was after Revenge of the Sith. That was the Ones of the Force versus Cinema Savvy. Me and Chris were victorious. Tate put a lot of time into that on the prep with JX, which appreciated was on my birthday night as well. So that was really good fun. It was because obviously lockdown and I had time for work. So it's like, spend the day with my family, but tell them, sorry guys, at 8 p.m. I will be upstairs with everyone else doing a quiz. They will end up watching it, I think. I remember eating pizza not off the floor, but there was a pizza box on the floor. Because I was like, I didn't want to have a pizza.
You animal.
It's when like I can't really share my room because I've got clothes on my bed, but I'm quite organized, and the last thing I want is like, like what's this box doing in the corner of his head? And like what it used to be, I had my wardrobe, and if the doors were like a centimeter open, I'm like, no, can't do it. I need to get this sorted. I think you and Tate have sent loads. There'll be like a hanger here, and you'll just see me be like, yeah, let me move that. And that's just my OCD.
This is a thing that we need to talk about, OCD as a concept. I don't even know what we're talking about right now. We're just going on. We're just sort of like straight off the cuff right now. The OCD is strong with us. And when you have a moment of OCD, I understand. I come from a place of understanding because I also have OCD. And I think it's mostly down to, I mean, we can see behind you there, my DVD racks there, the way that we order our films. Or when we have a series, okay, this is biggest pet peeve. So anyone like creating, I don't know who the people are who create DVD covers, Blu-ray covers, 4K covers, whatever. When you've got a franchise, please make them all marry up. When you've got like a franchise on your shelf and it's this beautiful, beatific image of this beloved franchise in front of you, like episodic or whatever it happens to be, if the titles are slightly out on one spine or the certificate is out, I don't know. It's an unspoken thing. If anyone has OCD, you will understand. But if you have like a franchise of films and say like, I don't know, 8 of the 9 are perfect, and then the 9 one is just slightly out, it's just like we were so close. We were this close. Like,
yeah, it is one of them. And I think the classic one, I think you spotted first of all, which really for me was a couple of years back when the Nolan 4Ks came out. I bought them all individually when I got the telly, and I'm looking at them now. It was like all of them are in the perfect place, and for some reason the Dark Knight's 12 certificates like dropped like a centimeter below the rest, and it's really painful. But I dictate the films I buy via how I store them, and that sounds really weird. Like I like my matching films, and some franchises they don't marry up because it's been like I think my Mission Impossible's the first 3 Blu-rays were released around the time of the 4th film, so they were done in a set design, and then they were outdated 4 film onwards, and then the rest is just 5, 6, whatever. So OCD is a big thing. It's like that ticket book. Every photo must be 6 by 4 inches. Every ticket must be able to fit in. They must be in equality places, and I get really OCD'd about. And when we're designing our thumbnails, me and you will be like, if there's like the slightest thing, like we'll ask each other, like, does this look right, or is it me
like
being
the eye twitch, isn't it? It's like, oh, that's not right. That's not right. I could sense that's not right.
And then like we'll send it. It's like, is this okay? And you'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, but I can see on the bottom corner that this yellow is slightly less yellow than the other corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say something else. Oh no, that was sorry. The quizzes. So, Cole, straight in VSD, different size box. If you can see behind me, there's the. I'm going to point for it there. The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've got the Tarantino, all of them on Blu-ray. And then because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's so damn good, I bought this collector's edition, and I didn't care it didn't fit because it's slanted sideways so you get to see the faces, but it's got like a vinyl edition in and things, and that's one of the only exceptions I've ever made. I think the one that get me, if you can see it there, the Star Wars Blu-ray box set, 4K, you get 9 out of the 11. I know it's the Skywalker saga, I know it. And it's just annoying that they couldn't just put the 11 in there. Just have a box set, be done with it. I'm quite like that. I've got my Bond 50 box set. That's the only time I've ever bought a James Bond box set because it's contextualized to the 50th anniversary. I do not need to have Spectre and Another Time to Die in there. I will leave it as the Bond 50. To me, that's my favorite box set. And that's just me, the OCD of it all.
It's a beautiful cover for that Bond one, isn't it? Though the 50 one.
Yeah,
I mean, the one that came out for Spectre, it was just that white box set. I remember, and it was just
horrible,
like
cheap.
That's the one you want, and 50, and like the 50th anniversary as well, when Skyfall first came out. That's the one you want, if anything. And going back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well, it's fine because you've got like Tarantino, the best Tarantino film. So it's fine. Yeah. It's fine.
It's speaking of Bond though, we'll get back to what we're talking about, but we said we'll give some hints away. As we are aware, there is Another Time to Die coming out, and our big discussion tonight, James Bond was a focal point. I'm going to drop a thumbnail because from February onwards, we're not going to confirm dates in case stuff gets delayed. We're going to be taking you through the James Bond film. I knocked this thumbnail up today. This isn't a joke. We are going to do 24 of them. This is something that I'm going to, if it all goes wrong, it's all on me. I've pressured the other two into it. It's going to be very different. It's going to be good fun. And I can't wait because we spoke very briefly on the show about Bond. I don't think I was on a spectrum. There's been one Bond film out since this channel's been a thing, which I think is everything you need to know.
This has been long in the making, though, hasn't it? Like we were discussing when was the right time. We've always wanted to go back through all of the Bond films, and I even started watching them now. You're definitely more of a Bond fan than me, I think. You've seen them all at this point. I haven't. You grew up with them, you know more about the production than me. But I think it was when Spectre came out, it was like, shall we do a marathon? Shall we do, well, not a marathon, but shall we do a retrospective on all the Bond films leading up to Spectre? And it was always a time thing. It was always like we'd leave it too late, or we'd have like a month until the actual release. And it's like, there's no way that we can like crank out 23 Bond films in this time before the next film comes out. Now is the perfect opportunity, and we're going to do it. We've got a schedule. I mean, it's official at this point. We have the thumbnail, right? So it's happening. So yeah, at some point it's happening.
Definitely. But what we'll do, we've got a comment from Carl. I noticed you have the Star Wars VHSs. Did you know Revenge of the Sith is worth over £100? I didn't know that. So funny story. This is the OCD. I think we've had this discussion, haven't we? We both had Phantom Menace on VHS. We both have Attack of the Clones on VHS, and I remember as a kid at Woolworths seeing Revenge of the Sith. I was like, oh, they still make videos? That's really odd. Never bought it because I had a DVD player. And as the years went by, I picked this up probably about a year and a half ago. And I was like, I kept seeing it for 40, 50 quid. I was like, I saw one listed at 30 and I nabbed it. I would never sell it. It's priceless. I've never watched it on there. The concept of a 2005 film on VHS has blown my mind. But that's the completionist in me. 1, 2, and 3 in the gold packaging. 4, 5, 6 copies my gave to me as a kid.
And here's the thing: I didn't even realize it was released on VHS, and I think that's why it's so rare and why it fetches for so. So, in terms of my my Star Wars collection, my Phantom Menace is on VHS. I still don't have it on DVD. I need to rectify that. I really need to get it on that 2-disc DVD.
Get them on everything. Get them on everything, my friend. I've got them all on 1 to 6 on VHS, DVD, 1 through to 9 on Blu-ray, and then I've got 1 through to all of them on 4K.
I was going to say, I was tempted to buy the 4K of Lord of the Rings, actually, go into like another franchise, and I don't even have a 4K player. I have no means of watching anything on 4K, but I kind of wanted it just for completion's sake. So my Phantom Menace is on VHS. My Attack of the Clones is on VHS. My Revenge of the Sith is on DVD. Now, that was 2005, wasn't it, I think? That was well and truly when DVD first came in. I think like 2004 to 2005 was where they made that transition. You know, even like Harry Potter, you had the first 2 Harry Potter films on video, and then 3, I think, came out on video as well, but it was that transitionary period. So I just bought the 2-disc edition of Revenge of the Sith, not just blissfully ignorant that it was out on VHS. I don't know if it was ever like widely released on VHS, though. That's the thing. Like, it seems to be a thing that I've only discovered in like the last few years, and I've gone onto eBay right now, and Carl ain't wrong either. Like, the cheapest one that I found is $79.99 for Revenge of the Sith on VHS. Now, I kind of want to get it just for completion's sake, but like, I have the film. I've seen the film uncountable times. I don't even know how many times I've seen that film. So I don't know. It's a lot of money to drop on a film, but like, fair play for picking it up, because it is a great like collection piece. And if it is rare, then just never part with that VHS cassette as long as you live. Like, Jesus Christ, just keep it.
Exactly, and that's why, like, I think me and you, as another streaming thing, streaming can't compare to physical media.
Yeah, absolutely.
The big debate was the PS5. Do you get the digital only edition or do you get the disc edition? Well, for £100 more, you get yourself a 4K Blu-ray player, and they're about 150 quid. So,
and you have a theory as well about physical media, don't you? You think that 4K will be the last sort of hurrah for physical media. You can't really see like 8K, or I think 8K is a thing, isn't it? I think it's already been made, or it's already out there.
8K TVs are out. There's no content in 8K like racing or film or whatever. Obviously, Chris Mayer said that film, as in film, it's reels, not digital. They can go up to about 18K. The technology will be there for them to be remastered across generations and whatnot. But physical media, we had this great discussion a couple months ago. Because 4K is a 25 quid a disc, if you're lucky. I always get mine on offer 3 for 30 quid. Wait till they drop down unless you feel like you need to get it on release day. I don't think they'll be able to churn out a DVD to Blu-ray was gargantuan, 1080p, full HD. HD's been the biggest advancement of the last 20 years in home media, cinemas, digital, everything. HD is that important. And Blu-ray was natural, but Blu-ray to 4K, I mean, you see all these films behind me. These are all just normal Blu-rays. I upgraded most of my DVDs. Then 4K came out, and I was like, okay, 4K is phenomenal on the right film.
Yeah.
Blu-ray is phenomenal for all of them. But if I'm going to spend that extra money, why am I going to pick this over the others? Now, some films, I'll do it based on a nostalgia point of view, or, the Spider-Man trilogy. I haven't watched them in 4K yet. They'll probably look better, but they won't be as essential to a 4K library, say Mad Max Fury Road or Logan, which, like, one of my friends recently, he got his PS5. He's like, is it worth me getting 4K Blu-rays? I'm like, yes. And I'm like, but... And he was like, I've seen this Harry Potter box set. It's 80 quid. There's 8 films. I said, avoid it. He's like, why? I was like, well, it was a rush job. It's not been remastered. The first 2 were remastered for it, but the rest of them was like the digital button upgrade. And so like, it's just a cash cow. And when you think of retail price of £20 a disc, 8 Harry Potter films should be 160 to £200, not 80 quid. Lord of the Rings, 75 quid for a trilogy, perfect price. And I don't think we're going to... I think 4K is so niche. I don't think the world will be ready for 8K. Probably 4 years away from that. But people still don't buy Blu-rays, partly, but they still have DVDs in progress. So why would people want 8K when, in theory, there are still DVDs, Blu-ray, 4K, 8K? Whereas when it was VHS got wiped out. DVDs won't get wiped out. So I think 4K is going to be the last hurrah of all these remastering stuff. I got a comment from Carl. The removal of physical media benefits the movies from profit. Absolutely. HBO Max, we'll get into maybe in January. There's a good segue for that. You don't own it. You can buy it on iTunes or on Amazon Prime, and it's in your library, but the terms and conditions state they can remove it from the library still. If you own that disc, Warner Brothers can't knock on my door and say, excuse me, George, can we have the Dark Knight back? They can do that on streaming. They can't do it on physical. And the whole way is in HBO Max is the whole point of it is they put films on for a month and take them off after. So, but you own all these films like Disney Plus. This is why you can't compare them. Disney Plus, Netflix. Oh, we paid for this production to be made. It's just going to sit on our streaming service forever. Whereas HBO Max comes and goes, and it doesn't make sense. So physical media is by far the greatest. And also, if you put 4K streaming side by side with 4K Blu-ray, the Blu-ray player will play better because it's physical disc. There's no streaming reliability. There's so much sad stuff to read into, which I've done in the past. But physical media is still our thing. We've both got hundreds pair of us each. And yeah, I don't think there'll be anything past 4K. I think by that time, why would they remaster it to 8K and not put it online? Because the Lord of the Rings 4K disc is about, I think the Fellowship's 140 gigabytes combined, both discs. That's 4K. That was 8K going to be. You're not going to have a 200.
Well, that's the thing. Like, ever since the DVD came out, like I had the VHS, that was just like the theatrical edition, but like the extended edition, it's 2 discs on DVD. And then the Blu-ray came out and you were thinking like, oh, it's going to be on 1 disc. It's going to be, I'm going to like be able to watch the film and not get up and like take the disc out and put the other one in. And it's still on 2 discs. And you're like, okay. And like 4K comes out. It's like, oh, it's going to be on 1 disc and it's still on 2 discs. It's like, oh my God. Like, I know the film's long. It's like pushing 4 hours almost, but like, Jesus, like, can we just get it on 1 disc? Just like the whole film? Like, I've been to the Prince Charles Cinema where they've played the film like beginning to end, and I know that's for like projections and like film reels and things like that. But yeah, and I think it's like physical media is just not limited to film. I think it's like all different types of media, right? Like music, like it's digital. You can download an MP3, you can stream it on your phone. You've got Spotify, you've got Amazon Music, you've got YouTube, you've got all these things, but if you are passionate about music, you will get it on CD. If people even buy CDs, I don't even know, but like vinyls had that resurgence, and people will buy a collection of vinyl if they're passionate about music. And I know that, you know, you collect vinyl as well, like film soundtracks and everything like that. I had a spout of like in that cabinet right there, actually, is where I keep all my vinyl. That's like a few years ago now where I sort of like got into it, and I've sort of dropped off it now, but I do appreciate vinyl. But I think for us, like film fans, we will always favor physical media over digital media. And like video games as well, if you're a gamer, you will buy physical copies of games and you will have the cases and you'll be able to look at them and like put them on a shelf and everything like that. And now I will say for gaming, I have moved more to oh my god, I'm drunk, to digital, sorry. And it's just the ease of it. You go onto the PlayStation Store, you find a game on sale, you know, it's like £10 or whatever. It's just like, oh, PayPal, boom, download, you've got the game.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to go onto Amazon. You don't have to wait for delivery. You don't have to wait for anything like that. You've just got it instantly. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think it ultimately depends on what you're passionate about. We're passionate about film. We will always buy, you know, Blu-ray, 4K, DVD. I still tend to buy DVD. I'm not going to lie. Like most of my collection is still on DVD. Newer films I tend to buy on Blu-ray just because I feel like they've been perfected almost in that Blu-ray quality. Like that's how they were filmed. They were filmed in higher definition than say like films from the 80s, 70s, 60s, whatever it happens to be. And also like going to Lord of the Rings with like the new 4K that came out, I've seen like the color changes that have been done with the color correction. And I feel like with older films, especially with like older technology and, you know, CGI does constantly keep getting better and better in terms of its quality. When you constantly keep remastering and refining a film, you start to see the cracks in it a little bit more. And that CGI that looked great on lower res, like whether it's VHS or whether it's on DVD, whatever it happens to be, you start to notice it a lot more that, oh, that's that old CGI. It doesn't look as good. There's not as many textures on it now. Sorry. And like what I've seen from like the 4K of Lord of the Rings, that's kind of preventing me from buying it a little bit. Like they've completely done a different color temperature on like the entire trilogy. And it's not what I'm used to. And it's weird. And I don't know. I think there's probably an argument there to like whether they should remaster completely these older films, because you do start to notice the cracks a little bit more in the filmmaking and the shots and everything, and things that you wouldn't even notice on low res. Suddenly with 4K, you're like, I'm seeing every infinitesimal detail in this image, and you start to see the problems in it or mistakes or things you wouldn't even notice before. So I don't know. I think there's an argument for both ways, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think one key thing I was thinking is George Lucas. Whenever he would, granted, we had the, you know, special editions, whatnot. He was someone that took great pride in being able to, I don't want to even use the word remaster. When it was time to look into that film, probably the best way of saying his imagination with it, I'm going to look into it and change things. Certainly on the DVD and Blu-rays, is like, okay, this VFX looks starting to look outdated, so I'm going to redo the VFX. And it wasn't a cheap, because I think you'll know more about Lord of the Rings than I do, but I don't think Peter Jackson changed the textures. He very much changed the colors on the CGI trolls or something. I don't know the full story, but on the Blu-ray for episode 1, Jar Jar Binks blew me away. And I was reading that he'd remastered, because obviously everyone spends so much time moaning about some of the abysmal changes. Don't get me wrong, there are some terrible changes, but he's helped those films stay modernized by tinkering with the Blu-ray and not doing. I mean, he's doing the best he can with it. And the 4K cut of the Phantom Menace is the first time in my lifetime that I thought, okay, now this looks outdated. Now I don't know the creative process, because as far as we're aware, the 4K Blu-rays were George Lucas's final edit. McClunky, we all know that. That's on record. And
the last hurrah, the special edition,
and
is McClunky.
And I remember watching the prequels. I was like, certainly Phantom Menace more so than Second. So this hasn't aged as well as it did sort of 7-8 years ago. And is that because it's when you shoot on digital, you're shooting on 1080p, not 4K back then? So then you are tinkering past what it's due. Whereas if you're shooting on film cells again have the chance to be reformatted into 1820K, whatever. So when I watched the 4K original trilogy, I was blown away. That hit me. Again, they didn't look 40, 50 years old. They were just about 10 years old. And then you get the CGI from the 90s, and it's like, that scene was shot on digital, and it really shows. So I think this is where, not to get snobbying up them, so where people at time, you know, digital's changed them for the good thing. We wouldn't have had degrees about digital. It enables everyone to make stuff. When you get these fully $200 million blockbusters, and Chris Nolan is there, you know, telling everyone about film, and every time he goes through his films, they're going to look fantastic on every future version because the way he filmed them was that they can age, whereas digital ones can't age as well. So time will tell with a lot of them. But it's a fascinating discussion, to say the least, actually.
I think it's ultimately like which franchise you're most invested in, right? Like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are always going to be the big two for me.
And so money.
I will buy that in VHS. Like I can see it in your shelf, like behind you right there. You will buy it in VHS. You will buy it in DVD. You'll buy it in Blu-ray, 4K, and if it goes beyond that, you'll buy it in that as well. Or you'll invest in Disney Plus and you'll watch it on there as well. I think it comes down to like a collector's perspective, I think.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just nice for like those franchises that you're really passionate about. You will buy every version that gets released, whether it's like a special edition, collector's edition, box set edition. Sometimes it's just nice to have and like see the progression of that physical media release of that given franchise. And I think Star Wars is probably like the best example of that. Lord of the Rings as well. I know I always go to those two, but they're like the two biggest.
Absolutely. I think Bond's up there. If you think of what films have been out on those formats, Marvel's Blu-ray DVD era, 08 onwards, you've got to think Bond, Star Wars, Star Trek. I'm not going to sit here and pick odd franchises because there's so many, but the key ones that are still kicking today is probably Bond, Star Wars, and Lord of the Rings is probably the big three for those types of formats. They're slowly doing Bond 4Ks. I'm not going to upgrade my Bond films to 4K. Blu-ray blew me away. No shit pun intended. The Blu-rays, when I sat down and watched them, I was like, oh my word, these look phenomenal. And it was the first time in my life that I didn't have to skip ITV adverts to watch them. So there was that.
That novelty really like wore off, didn't it? Like I remember like back in the day when you had like VHS, like blank VHS cassette tapes and you record off the TV.
Yeah.
And that was part of the charm, was like watching it back and you'd have like the TV adverts in it and everything. You'd like fast forward through them and you'd have like the sense memory of those like those adverts that you used to watch on TV. But now it's just like I physically can't watch a film on TV anymore. Like I'm used to streaming or, like however you get it, like you buy it or whatever you do. I have to watch that film beginning to end. I can't have breaks because I'm just like, why am I like adding on like an extra like 45 minutes or hour to this film through adverts and breaks when I could just be like, download the film or whatever and watch it? You know what I mean? Like it's mad.
My sister and dad were watching Forrest Gump last week, and I heard of this like war noise. I don't know if I came on a video after actually with you. I can't remember, but I went down and here's the film on 4 logo. And I was like, huh? I was like, well, yeah, you watch this on TV? They're like, yeah. I was like, adverts, yeah. I was like, do you want me to put the Blu-ray on?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of effort. I was like,
just skip it to the scene that you got to on TV and like let's go from there.
I was like, it's already a long film, plus your adverts. And it was 2 minutes later, it came down. Obviously, what happens? 4K Blu-ray players obviously push up the HD anyway, so they look better than what they are. I was like, no one was moaning then. I ended up losing out because the sound is far better on a surround sound than it is on the TV settings. So suddenly I'm now hearing Vietnam when I'm trying to go to sleep. Yeah, it's a fascinating. There's so many potential good discussions. I'm just trying to think of anything else because I'm so happy to chat, but we know it's late.
We could talk about I guess like favorites and non-favorites of 2020. I know we didn't want to turn it into that, but I guess like we are now in 2021 officially, so I guess we can look back and sort of go through some of the things maybe we haven't talked about. I mean, I know that I mentioned The Gentleman. We've both mentioned Tenet and like Soul and everything like that. If I'm going to go through like any other films that I've really enjoyed this year, and this is the thing, like we couldn't do like a separate video on like a top 10 or anything like that. Like we fundamentally couldn't. There hasn't been enough films come out at that.
They're all going to be the same. It would be the same with this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes they have crossovers, but I think this would be the definitive same, as in like the same probably 5 on everyone.
Yeah. So if I was going to throw any other titles out there, Mangrove definitely is probably like in like a top. Can we even do a top 10, top 5 maybe? The first of the Small Axe trilogy, Steve McQueen, Mangrove was fantastic. Got very emotionally invested in that one. I've only ever seen the first 2 parts of the Small Axe anthology. I think I said trilogy just a minute ago.
I was confused.
There's 5 episodes, isn't there? I still haven't seen the last 3. Other films, Borat 2 needs a mention. It was brilliant seeing Sacha Baron Cohen back as Borat, and obviously it's very contemporary with everything that's going in the US political race at that point. Very, very, very necessary, I would say, for today's day. Mank, now, I didn't really... If you're a film fan, if you like Citizen Kane, then I think you're really going to enjoy Mank. But I think just in terms of like filmmaking, it's definitely up there. This was me sort of like really scraping the bottom of the barrel for films to think of. And another one I'll shout out from the beginning of the year, The Invisible Man. Lee Whannell directed, reimagining of the Universal Monster series, The Invisible Man. Sort of like a modern take on it, a very different take on The Invisible Man. It wasn't perfect, and I think a lot of YouTube channels and a lot of people are really like building it up to be this film that's above the rest and fantastic and prolific and everything like that. And I wouldn't go that far, but I just appreciated the modern take on this character. We know that the Dark Universe, Universal, failed completely after the first film, The Mummy, with Tom Cruise. They had this whole sort of like cinematic universe planned, which never happened, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know. But The Invisible Man, like as a standalone, I thought it was, you know, solidly written. I thought it was well directed. It had suspense. It had some like moments of horror. It shocked me. The writing wasn't fantastic, but towards the end, it kind of like fell apart a little bit. But the moments where it was fantastic, I really appreciated that. So The Invisible Man, I really enjoyed as well, because that's not a title that really gets thrown out there quite a lot, I don't think.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it. I've seen really good stuff about it, but I don't have any knowledge of that sort of horror genre. I don't know much about it, but it was like that low-key sleeper hit that everyone loved that saw it. Let's see, I've got my letterboxes up, but I'm not just going to list them off because that's boring and pathetic. I'm not going to talk about Tenet. You mentioned Borat. So, okay, if we were doing a ranking video, which we're not, we always have these internal arguments between the three of us, and it will be, does this count? It was released in the UK this year, but it was on the Oscar season and came out every other country like November the year before. So whenever we talk about our favourites from the year, we always like just don't allow some of them to ever be brought up. So I'm going to give a shout out to 3 Oscar films from last year that had their UK releases: Jojo Rabbit, 1917, and Parasite. They're in my top 5 of that year if you want to count UK release dates only.
But Uncut Gems as well, I think, was like a 2019 borderline 2020 movie as well.
And it's that kind of like, we don't want to discuss them because they were discussed to death a year ago before we even saw them in our own country. So it's always that awkward thing. But Borat, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I'm going to talk about The Five Bloods was one that hit me quite hard. That's a really good Spike Lee film. Get an Oscar talk. Delroy Lindo in the lead role in that. Obviously, we didn't know the time when Chadwick Boseman's final roles, where he plays like a soldier in like a flashback, essentially. Really good film on Netflix. Came out in June time, which was quite early. It was meant to be released at Cannes. A lot of films that were due to be at Cannes said, okay, we'll just do next year. So we've missed out on some big Oscar films because of that. I think The French Dispatch, saving us from having to watch another Wes Anderson film anytime soon. That's now coming out in like May. And then you're also getting, oh God, I've forgotten the name of it, the Adam Driver musical with Marion Cotillard, which has been on my to-watch list for a long, long time. That's going to come out in May, June time again. So some of these films that I think could have been this obviously weren't, but I'm also going to give a shout out. You mentioned The Gentleman as well. I didn't expect much from it. It kind of goes 2 ways when you've got a Guy Ritchie film. I think you either love them or you hate them. I don't think you can have a middle ground. And I'm a bit biased though, because a football game I went to was featured in that film at the Arsenal game, and we worked on that scene as well. So there were sort of like 2 back-to-back things, but I didn't expect that film to be good. I thought it'd be crap, but it was insanely funny. I haven't actually had a chance to go back to it again.
I'll talk about Hugh Grant in that film as well. Like, my God, like, what a transformation! Like, if that's not the best role that he's ever played, I don't know what is. Like, completely transformed. Like, Hugh Grant, like, was, you know, an actor like, Hugh Grant, like, he's always in that kind of like rom-com kind of thing. He plays like a sleazy sort of like, what would you even call him? I don't even know. He works in the media.
He's just a journalist, isn't he?
Journalist, like sleazy journalist. He's like disgusting and horrible, but great at the same time. And I absolutely loved him in that film.
Oh, sorry. Carl's mentioned Baby Teeth. Now, I haven't seen this. This is one of the first ones back at the cinemas after lockdown. And I believe it stars our beloved Ben Mendelsohn. And it arrived on Netflix UK yesterday or the day before. So Netflix released a couple of 2020 films
He's just mentioned there another comment. Yeah,
A girl has terminal cancer, falls for a guy on the wrong side of the tracks, and parents have to go along with to keep happy. Australian film. It's got Ben Mendelsohn in it. We're sold. I didn't get a chance to see it at the cinema. I think this was during the Nolan binge, and I was refusing to watch other films from other directors until Inception came out, which is on my bad.
I mean, shit, if it's on Netflix, I've got no excuse now because, like, having Netflix, I can, watch it whenever I can.
Yeah, and I'll mention The Call of the Wild.
Yes,
it wasn't particularly bad. It wasn't good. It was. Was that the last film I watched? No, 1917. So we knew we were going to go into a lockdown, but our government didn't have the balls to do it. We're not going to get into that. Me and you've got similar thoughts. Obviously, I'm sure you all have at home too. And I remember we were working from home at this point, and my boss was like, "You doing anything tonight?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to cinema." Like, why? Like, you've been sent home from work. I was like, "Yeah, work sent me home, but the cinemas are open." And there was like 3 people in my screening, and it was one of those films like, it didn't need to be out of the cinema. It's on Disney Plus already, but it was Harrison Ford and a dog walking around, and it was just a nice film. I think it's the kind of film that made my parents like more. But we also got to see Harrison Ford shredded at the age of 80. So yeah, Call of the Wild was okay. And then there's only 4 films I actually disliked. 2 of them.
I was going to say, let's get to ones that we disliked in 2020 as well.
Yeah, I mean, these came out. Lady and the Tramp came out in 2019 in America. It came out Disney Plus here, so legally it's on my 2020 list. Mm-hmm. Terrible. We used to have bulldogs, my favorite breed, after bull mastiff. I was like, oh my god, there's a bulldog in it, and then that was a fucking disgrace. So I hated it anyway, and I'd never even seen the original cartoon, so I don't know what to expect from it. But didn't like Lady and the Tramp. Little Women. One of our blessings is that we haven't had to have the Oscar binge yet, where we have to watch like 15 Oscar films in the space of like 2 weeks. It wasn't bad. I just didn't care for it. I didn't care for the characters. I've not seen any of the adaptations. I know Christian Bale was in one. I'd rather go and watch a Christian Bale one because his name's in it. It was one of them, like, it's that time of year where we have to watch them. And I think when you don't want to watch a film and then you have to watch it, I think definitely between me and you, we kind of not have an incentive to dislike it, not that at all. But if we're not liking it, then we're going to know within half an hour, like, when are we moving on to the next one, we're going to probably dislike too. And then before I get to the worst one, without a shadow of doubt, I have to talk about Wonder Woman 84. There's been enough talk about it, but the only reason it's not probably bottom is because of, actually no, it's not as bad as New Mutants, but Pedro Pascal's the only shining grace from that. I mean, what a year he's had. Sorry, what a week. He had Wonder Woman 84. He's had the Mandalorian finale. He had what's the Heroes one on Netflix, the Child Love Girl thing. We Can Be Heroes.
Yeah.
And of course, he's everywhere. One absolute icon, and he's the only good thing about that film.
Worst for me, I mean, Carl's almost beat me to it there. I know it's probably on our worst list as well. New Mutants was my worst film of the year. I don't know if it'd be my worst film of the year. It was bad. It was awful. But I think I conditioned myself knowing that it was going to be bad. So it was just like watching it like, yeah, that was bad. That was exactly how I thought it was going to be. So it kind of lessened the impact for me. I think more damning for me was Wonder Woman 1984 because I did have, I won't say outrageously high expectations, but we both loved that first trailer that came out with Blue Monday, the New Order song. It was perfectly edited. We loved the first Wonder Woman film, and we were very much looking forward to this new one. And I mean, I did my first time reaction to it, like all 2.5 hours of that film. And it was just, I almost couldn't process how bad that film was. Just from a writing, acting, just everything. And it was the same director as the first film. Like, how could this go wrong? And it's nice to know that I'm not the only one who thought that. Like, seeing other critics as well who have also sort of like dogged on that movie as well, saying it's like really bad. So that was kind of reassuring to me that I wasn't completely against the grain. There's people out there that also don't like Wonder Woman 1984. So there's that too. I'm trying to think of anything else. Has anything else been released?
The thing is, and this is why, like, I'm not defending New Mutants or Wonder Woman, but there have probably been far worse films.
Yeah.
In a year where there's been a pandemic, where there's been less films, and all these films are going online, we just don't see them. We haven't, not to sound rude, we haven't had to see them. Normally, I think last year, as when I was new to working at home, I did a back-to-back double bill of Men in Black International and Hellboy. If those two had come out this year, I think Artemis Fowl came out in March. That's probably going to be a lot of people's list. And there are so many bad films that got released. We just haven't watched them.
I guess we need to talk about Mulan as well, right? Like one of our most viewed reviews on the channel. And me and you haven't seen it, but I feel justified in saying that that's one of the worst of 2020. We both refuse to watch it for different reasons. Like you, like political, and I completely agree with that as well. Like that is definitely reasoning for me as well. But for me, it was just that I'm tired of these live action Disney remakes when the animated versions are by far superior and tell the story in a much more economical way, timely way, and just like hit all the points they need to in terms of character development. I refuse to watch it. I think Tate, out of the three of us, was the only person who actually watched the damn film when we did the review. So I feel obligated to say that that's one of the worst of 2020, even though I haven't seen the film. So I don't know if I can say that because I haven't seen it, but believe me, I watched the first 2 minutes of that film, and the first 2 minutes of that film said everything that I need to know about that film and why it's awful and why it's terrible and why the original is superior. So I think we absolutely need to throw that out as well as one of the worst of 2020.
Quick one.
Yep.
Does this worry you for the Patty Jenkins Styles film?
Yes.
I'm not. I don't think. What's the word?
If she doesn't write it, yes. If she directs it, brilliant. But if she writes it as well, we've got a problem.
I'm still in this camp of tell me the era, unveil your cast, and show me before I get into it, because I really liked that first Wonder Woman film. If both of them had been bad, I'd be more nervous.
Rogue Squadron, I'm guessing it's going to be sort of like original trilogy, right? It has to be.
Well, on the photo, it's got the modern X-Wings to be that guy. So,
so probably post Return of the Jedi, before Force Awakens, maybe.
Potentially. So I'm curious, dependent on where and what the story concept is. Because obviously, we've both said, I know we've got different opinions on the sequels, but we both want to see that 30-year gap be filled out. I'm not saying we need to know every month of the 30 years, but that like they've maxed out to me what they can do between 3 and 4. Once we've got I really don't care. We've had so
between 2 and 3 as well, really.
Yeah, and it's we know nothing interesting happened between 1 and 2. The galaxy's in the same place, but 4 and 5, nothing really happened between. Then 5 and 6 is 1 year gap, and 6 and 7 takes place after the Rise of Skywalker. Not fully confirmed yet, but if it is, I'm very curious still, because then what's the villain's going to be?
So what's the ending going to be? Like, Palpatine has been defeated? ? Or so we think. Maybe he'll come back in like the next trilogy. Who knows?
Like somehow the TIE fighters have returned. That being said, I don't know with Patty Jenkins to the Mulan thing. Yeah, like that would have probably been near the bottom of that list. Trump was bad, and obviously the Disney debates for another time for sure. I'm not as against it. There are some films they've put in development I'm curious to see. I think Pinocchio is probably going to be the one a lot of people talk about. I think you can do more of Pinocchio than the other Disney reboots. Pinocchio is more the fairy tale. There's been so many other Pinocchios, but Tom Hanks is going to be curious to see how, because he doesn't normally do sellouty things like that. I know that sounds really horrible.
He's been very careful. Like, I guess Toy Story, but that's like his cash cow, right? Like, that's going to be
exactly. Yeah, it's like, we need to record another line for every voice until we get the real life Woody's Roundup series being voiced by someone else, the real Woody. But
related to Star Wars. Sorry, George. Dark magic.
Secrets only the Sith knew.
I guess we can just moving on from Rise of Skywalker. I've got a buddy of mine who has been on the channel before on like a reaction long ago, years ago, who is actually watching Rise of Skywalker as we speak. In fact, it's probably finished by now. I'm waiting to hear what he says, but he was about 45 minutes into it when I last spoke to him, and he says he has no positive things to say about that movie. So that's going to be very interesting. We're almost coming up to 2 hours, so I guess we can sort of finish on which films of 2021 we're most looking forward to. If the release dates stay as they are, because they could move. For me, in terms of films that I'm hyped for, it's Top Gun Maverick is probably up there in top of the list for me. Cautiously optimistic for it. I don't think Top Gun's necessarily a film that needs a sequel. But from what I've seen from the trailer, the fact that they filmed so much of it in camera and the fact that Tom Cruise has had so much sort of, like as a producer role on it, like he's definitely been invested in it, and it looks incredible from what I've seen so far. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. It's that 80s nostalgia, like franchises keep coming back, and there's a lot riding on that, but I hope it's good. Matrix 4 as well. Like I'm kind of interested in that because we now live in a post John Wick world, and I want to see more Keanu Reeves. So I mean, he's still got it. We've seen that. Go into another Tom Cruise franchise as well, Mission Impossible 7. I've said that those have.
If they get
yeah, like I respect the legacy of Bond, but to me, like Mission Impossible has now surpassed Bond in terms of quality. Hopefully, the new Bond film pulls it back, but Mission Impossible's there for me. It's got the supporting cast, it's got the in-camera stunts and everything like that. I mean, Tom Cruise, Jesus Christ, is going to crank these films out as long as he can, as much as he's able to do, without breaking an ankle or spraining an ankle or whatever he did on the last one. But those are probably the ones that stand out for me. Fast 9. I really want to see Fast 9. I'm now an official fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. They're terrible, but they're terrible in the best way possible, and I can't wait for 9. I need my magnet plane. 2021, I need to see my magnet plane, and I'm going to see it on when's that coming out? I don't even know. 28th of May. In May time, I'm going to finally see that magnet plane. So they're sort of like the top 3 for me, I think.
Mine, I'm going to go with Bond because I have to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay away from the latter half of the year to avoid disappointment of release date changes, but I think Bond's going to come out this year. It's even before Corona, it was still the film with the most delays. It's probably the most cursed production I've heard of for many years. So I just want it to be. I really like Daniel Craig's Bond, and you'll get to hear us go into these thoughts properly in the next few months. But just let him have his final film. Let him go out the way he wants to. I think really good comparison Mission Impossible, because when they approach Bond films, it's like, what can we get James Bond to do in this? And it's like, okay, tick Q, tick M, tick Aston Martin, tick, tick, tick. Whereas Mission Impossible is like, hi, Tom Cruise, what do you want to do this film? Whereas James Bond's like, what do we want to see him do versus what do I want to do? And I think Mission Impossible's had that natural evolution. There's been so many of them. Bond is stuck in that bubble of, can we take risks? I don't think they can. They don't want to. They seem worried to. The trailers weren't particularly magnificent for Bond, but Kerry Fukunaga is not a name I thought would do a Bond film. After True Detective, the film he did with Idris Elba, the Child Soldiers one, I'm really optimistic, mainly because I had no interest in a Danny Boyle James Bond film. I'm so glad they sacked him. That sounds so horrible, because I don't dislike Danny Boyle as director. He just had no place directing a James Bond film.
I'm excited to see it, but on the flip side, I am kind of like, let's get rid of this era of Bond now. Like, it's done. Like, I'm excited to see like the final Daniel Craig Bond, but I am also excited to see what can they do next. Are they going to completely reboot and revitalize the franchise with like a new Bond, a new tone, and everything like that? I am excited to see where it's going to go next, and I'm struggling to form words right now. And Carl has left us a very, very nice comment. So, George, if you can please read that out for us, that would be great.
Thank you so much for everything, you guys. You know how much this means, helps and supports me and the others. Wish all the success for 2012, the most underrated channel on YouTube. Wow. I do not blush, but we do appreciate it. Obviously, we've had many great messages from you throughout this year. Even back on One to the Force before we ended that, you were on commenting all the time as well. So, got massive respect for always coming on as last minute as this was today. We decided this, 9 o'clock at night? We kind of half 8, 9, and the fact you've shared our stuff, jumped on, we really appreciate it. I said, we love doing these videos. I mean, this is literally just been me and Chris's normal chat without an input by you guys at home. We would have had these discussions. We would have had some of the same stuff over whenever. So it was really good to do it. And 2021, like I said, there's some big films coming out. We've got a schedule. We've got some plans in place. We've got some big things doing. We've had a lot of fun with 2020 and how the year's turned out. From a selfish point of view thing, the channel's done very well. I think it's our best year since 2017. We've for a pandemic with no new releases by Tenet, we've done pretty good. We've got things in place. We're feeling more comfortable with it. So it's just about taking it to that next level. So as my like wrap up thing, again, just like thanks for all the support of everyone watching at home. It's been a blast, and fingers crossed for what comes next, because I'm gonna, before I pass over to Chris, I'm gonna remind you all that we have the Cobra Kai season 3 spoiler video coming tomorrow, which feels way too professional of me to say that. But as we said, if you had said 2 months ago you're gonna have Netflix screeners, I'd be like, good one. We normally get screeners for like not even at a film festival, but random E-list film. Do you want to watch this? Sure, we'll do it sometimes, absolutely. But Netflix, Cobra Kai, big franchise, we're in an interesting place, and we're not going to draw on that, get into egos. But fingers crossed that we can be covering other Netflix releases throughout the year before they come out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Cobra Kai was a fantastic experience to get to review that early as well. And this is going to get into like ego. I don't want to.
I know, I don't want it because we don't.
Like, just like thinking of the little things about the channel, really. Like even the shirts, even the merch. Like we're not even like, please buy our merch, please buy our merch. We're not about that, but just like the fact that I'm wearing a shirt with like a logo we created like 5 years ago. It's, we have seen progression, and we want to see more progression as well, because we like interacting with you guys. Like we started this because we like talking about film. It's a good outlet for us. Like I wanted to start this channel because with like the friends that I went to see films with, they just sort of come out of it and go, oh yeah, it was good. And I wanted that extra step. I wanted to like dissect films and like go into it and like share that passion for film, and like meeting you on like various like Facebook forums and everything like way back in the day. And then we got Tate involved and everything like that. That's what it was all about. And we've built this over all these years, and I'm very happy with where we've sort of like ended 2020. I think like the last half of that year, we've sort of like found our footing, we've found our second wind more, and we're really excited going into 2021. Sorry. We've got a lot of awesome things to reveal to you guys. We don't want to reveal them all right now, but believe us, we do have a plan. We do have a plan for 2021, and it's all down to you guys. Like Carl, what's this? Mad to think that Netflix are watching your channel. Yeah, it's like Big Brother is watching you. Like, make sure you don't give away any spoilers for Cobra Kai until, well, actually, is the embargo lifted right now? I think like midnight for US viewers, right?
Yeah, but we're not.
Oh, we're four. Yeah, don't worry, we're not going to
get we're 8 hours away off the embargo.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. But yeah, no, just in terms of stuff like that, it's unfathomable to me. And we didn't even have this stuff like a year ago. So I'm very happy with where the channel's going. And 2021, we've got a lot of things planned for it, and I'm really excited to get into that. And yeah, there might be not like a lot of new films coming out. Maybe there will be when if things start smoothing out a bit more. But even if there isn't, we've got you covered. We've got a lot of things planned. We've got retro reviews. We've got a lot of other stuff planned too. And oh my God, right, I'm going to have to try and do socials right now. Here we go. So if you want to follow us on socials, Facebook and Twitter are the best ways to do it. So Facebook is at Cinema Savvy. Twitter is at cinema_savvy. And again, we don't want to like plead and everything, but if you would like to pick up any merch, TeePublic link in the description down below. So please check that out too. Tomorrow, we will have our Cobra Kai spoiler-filled review. Which we've already pre-recorded, but we're very much excited to see how people take to that as well when they finally get to see that series. And yeah, hopefully we get some more early screeners, maybe for Netflix going into 2021. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We very much like to talk about those shows as well. And then just a final big thank you to everyone that's joined us tonight. Carl, absolute trooper, you're always with us, man, and we really appreciate that. We've had the life of Brian, we've had Iris as well. So just thank you to everyone that's jumped on, spending your New Year's with us as well. We really appreciate that. As I said, this was very impromptu. We didn't know we were going to do this, but yeah, sorry, George. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Just before we do forget, we are going to be taking not even really a short break. We're having a week off. We're going to drop the Cobra Kai video tomorrow. We have watched a hell of a lot of films. We've done 8 episodes of Mandalorian, 8 Rocky films, 2 Tron films, 4 Karate Kids, 3 seasons of Cobra Kai, spoiler reviews, Wonder Woman, all this stuff. We've had a manic December. We have not had a month like this in a long time. A lot of channels shut down over Christmas. Obviously, we try not to. And the pair of us just said, you know what? We're not burnt out. but we don't want to get burnt out. And I think that's what used to happen to us. So we're going to take a week off. We will be back next Friday, the 8th of January, on a live stream, I guess is the polite way of saying being live. We're just going to chill out. You'll see us on Twitter and Facebook. We'll still have posts going up over the week and stuff. But we don't know fully what that video is yet. We know the gist of it, but we're going to discuss it a little bit more. But probably going to be a live stream next Friday, and then we've got stuff dropping throughout January. I think we might as well just mention now. WandaVision is obviously coming out in mid-January. We'll be covering that each week. Obviously, it's the first Marvel show. We're curious to a point to see what the format's going to be. Does it need weekly shows? But we're going to be covering WandaVision. We've got a couple of other films coming out. So as Chris said, check out our socials for that. But as I said, we're just having a week off. And as following up, we appreciate all the support and everything. We just started off as 2 people into film. We had a good time. Then we started doing live streams. Then we've got broadcasting software. Then we're going to film festivals. All this stuff was literally not ever made. The main reason I did this was to keep my editing skills sharp while I was at uni. I've imagined a better thing, and the fact we're from the same county. So there's a bit of regionalistic there, isn't it? It's a bit like race, but for your region.
Travelable distance. Let's just say that, like, we can get to see each other if we really want to. Also, background. We forgot to do that. Happy New Year, everyone. So yeah, this has been a blast. This has been really fun. Like, obviously, with the UK tier system, we're all in our homes, but this has been a really fun way to see in the new year as well. Hopefully you have a good time. Hopefully you've enjoyed 2020 as much as you can, although it's been a very turbulent year for a lot of people. And we're hopeful for 2021. Good vibes. And yeah, we will see you a week today, next Friday. Much earned break, I think. Maybe we'll finally get a chance to watch things that we actually, in our own lives want to watch or catch up on. It's going to be good fun. But a big thank you to everyone that's watched tonight. And yeah, Happy New Year. And we'll see you in a week's time. Thanks, everyone.